Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Z Nation Season 3. And what I want to do in this video is look at whether Vasquez will rejoin the group in Season 3 or whether he will have a different storyline going into Season 3. If you are not caught up with Z Nation and you do not want to be spoiled in any way, then I would exit the video now and come back later, because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay, so of course Vasquez was introduced into the story in Season 2 when all of the bounty hunters were looking for Murphy, and of course he ends up joining the group at the end of the second episode, White Light, when they all caught up with Murphy after Mac had died. And he started traveling along with the group. He started to help them out. He started to get connected with some of them. We saw that maybe there was somewhat of a fling with Warren and Vasquez that might have happened, and it might still happen. Who's to say? We'll find out. And we, of course, learned his unfortunate past and what he was really trying to accomplish. We found out that before the apocalypse, he was a DEA agent, and he was trying to bring down this cartel. And what ended up happening was they tried to in a sense, make him a corrupt agent. He refused, and as punishment, a Zero killed his wife and daughter. And ever since, he had been trying to find the one that had done that. And, we saw as the episodes went on, he was killing several of the Zeros, and he was, he let the group know what his goal was. He, of course, finds out that a Scorpion was the one that killed his wife and daughter. And at the end of Season 2, when they finish up with Lorena and the group in Adios Muchachos, Vasquez ends up fighting with the Scorpion, in a sense, a duel to the death. And he ends up knocking a Scorpion down into this pit where zombies were. And, of course, we think, oh, well, that's it. A Scorpion's dead. Vasquez wins. Justice is served. They go. They finish their mission. And, of course, the Zeros and Lorena catch up to the group, and they want to take Murphy back. So there's a fight. We find out that a Scorpion has survived, surprisingly. He is a changed man. He says he is. And basically, Vasquez wants to finish the job. He wants to kill a Scorpion, as justice for killing his wife and daughter. But after some thought, and after, Warren kind of says, what would your wife and daughter think of you? Would you really actually be a better man after that? Really think about it. Vasquez decides not to do it. He doesn't kill a Scorpion, but he leaves the group. He doesn't go with them. He stays back at that restaurant. Warren, Doc, and Addie go on their way. Of course, 10,000's in the submarine. And Vasquez ends up I think he tied a bandana to his head with something from his family. I think it was like some kind of thing his daughter gave him or something. And then he just starts killing a couple of the zombies that are outside, and then he runs off into the woods with zombies chasing after him. And that's the last thing that we see of Vasquez. And, of course, now we're wondering, well, what does this mean for the character? What is going to happen to him? Will he come back to the group? Will he stay out there for a while? Is he going to run into somebody else, and maybe we're going to have a different storyline going on? Well, obviously that's a lot of questions, and obviously there's really nothing that we can use as reference, unlike on other shows like The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, when you have books or graphic novel series. We don't have that here. It's strictly plain guess. And at this point, what I think is going on with Vasquez personally, if I make my best guess, I think that maybe right now he's either venting his anger or he's just, begging for death. Because I think that deep down, I think he's still struggling with that decision. And I think that that's a decision that, many of us would struggle with. I mean, we see that as a theme in a lot of movies and as a lot of, books. I mean, this idea of somebody coming in and absolutely destroying our lives by, maybe potentially killing somebody or doing something else to somebody. And, really is the ultimate justice to kill that person or put him in prison or something else. I mean, that's a theme that we see all the time in movies, all the time in books, all the time in TV shows. And you never really see what happens afterwards, you know? I mean, you kind of see the end of the action movie where, you know, the bad guy dies, the good guy goes, all right, I'm good now. But you don't see what happens after, obviously. And this is kind of unique because it does give us that perspective afterwards, you know? And I think that Vasquez is struggling because I think in the one sense, obviously, this has been his mission. This has been something that has been driving him the whole time. And now that he doesn't really have this mission, part of me wonders if he is just out to look for death. Maybe by taking on the zombies, maybe I think he's thinking, I'm just going to fight it to the death. I'm going to take whatever weapons I have. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to, you know, do what I have to do. I'm just going to fight. And when I finally get bit and died, or if I fall off a cliff, or if I decide to, you know, take my own life or whatever the deal is, then that's what I'm going to do. Maybe that's what Vasquez is thinking right now. And that might be what he's going to do. On the other hand, it just might be that he's venting his anger and he's trying to figure out what to do next. Because obviously he may still be thinking about right now at this moment killing a scorpion. That might still be on his mind. He may not have just been able to come up with the excuse at the time, but maybe he's working up to it. You know, we might see a story next season where he's completely different, where he's enraged, where he is going to try and maybe kill a scorpion finally. That's possible. I think there's a number of ways that the group could run into each other. Because obviously, as we saw with the way the stories went, Vasquez at this point does not know that Warren, Doc, and Addie went in a Scorpion's truck. Like, the four of them are together. And as we see in the season 3 trailer, those four are still together. And of course, a Chinese woman from I think maybe the army or something. We saw that several Chinese soldiers came over, and that was how the cliffhanger ended. But we see them together. They're all together. And it makes me think that they're going to continue to travel together. And I have to wonder if Vasquez is going to find out about this. You know, I don't know if they're going to reintroduce Vasquez right away, or if they're going to wait a couple of episodes and then have him doing his own thing and then he finds out. But when he finds out that a scorpion is back, you know, with the group, I mean, I just can't see a story where those two are together. Z Nation would really have to do a lot of convincing to make me think this is even plausible. I mean, you are not going to travel with the guy who killed your wife and daughter. That's just not realistic. That's not going to happen, you know, without something else happening in the process. And I could see a number of things happening. Because I do wonder if Vasquez is going to go back to the group, find out that a scorpion is there, and he might say something like, look, either he goes or I go. And they have to make a decision, or they try to work things out and they don't. I could see a situation where a scorpion dies. I could see a situation where he does either give his life to, in a sense, atone for what he's done in his past, that maybe he will die in season 3, and then Vasquez can rejoin the group. But on the other hand, I could just see Vasquez saying, well, look, I'm not doing this. I'm out. Or a scorpion might go his separate ways. I'm not sure. There are a lot of ways that can work out, but I really can't see at this point a story where Vasquez just goes, all right, yeah, all right, I'll travel with y'all, and a scorpion's there. The guy that killed his wife and daughter is sleeping next to him in a tent or in the shelter. I can't see that happening. And again, it does make me wonder if he's going to find out. But there's a possibility that he may not go back to the group, that he may end up running into somebody else. And that will lead, I think, to maybe what might happen to him in season 3. Because if he doesn't go back to the group, I think he'll still have a part in the show. He could potentially die in season 3. I mean, I've thought about that. That could be a story that they use to, in a sense, give him peace, to let him reunite with his wife and daughter in the afterlife, if that's something that you believe in or if the show wants to incorporate. But I think that there are a couple of things that could happen to him. Number one, he might still go after Murphy. He might end up going after Murphy. He might try to take him to somewhere else. You know, he might even team up with Murphy and help him out. That's possible. I don't see that happening. I don't know if he would agree, but it might be something that he's willing to do if he has nowhere else to go. So I could see him there. But the big thing that I think might happen to him is that he might go back to his ways as being a bounty hunter, and I have to wonder if he's going to run into someone from Zona. Because obviously, when Vasquez went after Murphy, he didn't really know exactly who he was doing this for. I mean, I think that what was going on was he was going after Murphy to then hand him over to whoever, because obviously he wanted to get closer to the Zero so he could find out who the killer was. But maybe he might now end up taking Murphy, and, you know, he might end up going to Zona. That, I think, could happen. I could see a story where some big official from Zona, which we might get introduced to characters from Zona, people, you know, who have also come over to, you know, oversee operations, things like that. I could see somebody coming over, reuniting with Vasquez, and then maybe making him a deal of some kind, you know, that they could give him whatever he wanted if he went out and got Murphy. So he might end up joining Zona and going after Murphy, and then the group ends up meeting up, you know, with him, and they find out they're on opposite sides and things might go crazy. I could see that happening. Because obviously one of the big villains that is going to come into season 3 is a bounty hunter who is looking for Murphy, but he's also going after Lucy, Murphy's daughter. And I have to wonder, again, if there are going to be elements from Zona out there trying to influence people, and he might get recruited by Zona, and if Warren and the group are working with the Chinese, or if they're working for themselves, or I don't know what's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Vasquez and the other members of the group found themselves on opposite sides based on what's going on. And then from there, it's hard to say what could happen. But at this point, you know, to conclude and kind of sum it up, I really think that Vasquez is not just going to rejoin the group. If Vasquez looks and he sees that a Scorpion is there, he's not going to come waltzing in saying, hey, everything's okay, fine. Either, in my opinion, a Scorpion is going to die, and that will allow Vasquez to rejoin the group, or Vasquez might end up dying. And if that doesn't happen, then I think that Vasquez will end up coming into contact with other individuals, and as a result, he might be on opposite sides of the group, and that might end up making different storylines to come, and maybe, you know, Vasquez might either become a different kind of person, he might become a villain, he might become another hero. It's hard to say, but there are a lot of possibilities, and I'm very interested to see what they will do, because I think it could go a number of ways. But hopefully he does come back. I hope that the character does come back into the story, because I think he is a great character. And I think it was a very good introduction for the show. And I can't wait for Season 3 to start and we see what happens. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you all very much for watching.